and welcome back to the channel. Part of my channel is not just animals, and I've done a lot of animal stuff because I have a lot of animals. I also want to talk about different schooling things and like my opinions on different degrees and what happens in those degrees and stuff like that. I think I've had a lot of cool experiences in my life and I like to share those. Today I'm going to talk about what it's like getting a geology degree. Geology, if you don't know, is the study of the earth, its structures, its processes, its history, things like plate tectonics, so how the earth is covered in all these plates that move together and they cause earthquakes, and more continents are getting built as others are sliding under other plates. And then of course volcanoes, that's coal and oil, even groundwater, sedimentology, igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks. Paleontology is under this umbrella too. Basically the earth is what I learned about. What's interesting with my career path in geology was that in high school I wanted to take the earth science class, but it was for the stupid people because everyone says rocks for jocks, which is horrible because it's such an intense field and you learn a ton and you have to know chemistry and physics and biology and you have to know every subject. Math, like you do a ton of things, you have to kind of have artistic skills sometimes. It was kind of stupid that I couldn't take that class because my school deemed me as, oh, you're too smart to take that class. Like it's too below you. You can't qualify for that class. My high school also said I was too qualified for plant biology too, which is real dumb. So I didn't get to take rocks or plants, even though I wound up doing biology and geology. I had actually like no background in geology going into the major itself. I just had an interest in rocks and fossils. You know, everyone can find everything on the internet. It's already on my LinkedIn page and my Facebook page. So you know what? I am a proud graduate and alumni of the SIU Carbondale Geology program, so Southern Illinois University Carbondale. If you're into geology, do it. It's one of the best experiences of your life. I was actually named Senior of the Year, so I, really love the program and I will always say good things about that program. What's nice about geology programs is that they don't tend to have a lot of people in them. They didn't tend to have a lot of women, so it was kind of cool being like a woman in a male field. But now it sounds like from my professors, like it's either even or actually there's more girls in geology now. You get a lot of one-on-one, which is really nice. Pretty much stuck with your same group of people as you go through undergrad. There was a lot of scholarships, just because there's a limited amount of people, but geologists are passionate about keeping geology going, and so there'd be lots of different donors for the program that you would wind up with like a bunch of scholarships. So it's a really great major for funding and the personal touch of talking to your professors. The professors are so down to earth. Like honestly, I knew about their kids, I knew about their pets. Like we were all like one big happy family. It was really a really special experience. Fellow students well, you knew your professors well, the office people knew you really well. I had a lot of backpacks going to school, and so a lot of people knew me there only as Backpack Girl because I had a bunch of weird ones. I had different dinosaur ones, I had a spiky one. You get nicknames, you get the family touch. So for labs, you would actually go out and map things or measure things. The area I was in, you can actually just go out and do those things. I had other classes where we would take a whole weekend or an entire week to go drive somewhere. For example, we went and looked at the Appalachian Mountains. You had to get permission slips, get out of your other classes at school because you had a geology thing going on. Your other geology professors all understood, so it wasn't even a problem there. And you take a lot of different classes. Besides your geology classes, you do have to take chemistry classes, so I took a few of those. I took physics classes, and then depending on the type of geology you're going into, you might do more of either of those, or you might go towards the more biological side. Geology is actually probably my funnest degree that I have. I have had so much fun getting that degree. It was amazing. It actually started out as my minor, so I had a major in zoology and a minor in geology, and I took my first class with Dr. Anderson. If you're ever watching, you're the one that made me a full geologist. I took his class and it was amazing. I loved it. Came naturally. Just I double majored. I have never met a more fun group of people at a school than geologists. They do like to party. They do like to drink, which is odd because I don't like to drink. I was kind of a weird geologist, but yeah, they love camping. They love being outdoors. It's a great group of people. My specific department had a bunch of different events through the year. So they had a fall picnic and then a spring banquet, and then they had different events. They had a geology club. I was in that. I was an officer for I think a year. We would go on field trips for pretty much every class that made sense. I had some field trips with my geology club. We had rock sales where we had a little table outside of our building where we sold rocks to people walking by. You get a lot of the people that are into crystals. If you ask a geologist, we are not into crystals. We have studied these minerals. We've done a lot of research and they don't really do much. But if you think that they do something with your energy, like you go for it. We sold to a lot of crystal people. We wind up knowing all about which minerals do what with your aura. I mean, we don't really believe it, but like I definitely know which ones do what. So that's a fun fact that you learn as a geologist. So the classes you take in geology, you do a basic one where it's just like your kind of high school class. Here's what plate tectonics is. Here's what volcanoes are. The earth is made up of these different layers. What minerals are common. You take a history class, so it goes through paleontology and also how the earth changed from its conception. After your basics, you go into your certain track. So depending on what type of geologist you want to be, you pick a track. Since I wanted to be a paleontologist, I went the generic geology track since my school wasn't known for paleontology. I had an invert paleontologist there, but no big paleontology section. So I did general geology, but there was like hydrogeology where you deal with like water. There's obviously coal, but just whatever track you're on, volcanology, maybe you're into, you know, planets and meteorites, you went that route. I'm talking about the general geology route, which I guess might be the normal geology route for most schools. We took mineralogy, so you learned every mineral, like, well, maybe not every mineral, but like every mineral, and you had to know them by sight, by their name. You learned their hardness. You had streak, where you rub them across a ceramic plate and it makes a certain color, which might not match the color that the mineral is, by how they taste. So I put a lot of rocks in my mouth. That's another thing that geologists do. We are unafraid to put dirt and rocks in our mouth. I've done that pretty much on every dig. Depending on how you chew things, it could tell you a lot about the environment. Do these like practicums where you just have a bunch of rocks and it'll either have certain questions or you just have to identify the rock. I don't know why I keep saying rock, I'm talking about mineralogy. Rocks are different than minerals, guys. So rocks are made up of minerals. So it's like each mineral is a Lego, and that Lego comes together to make a rock, which is like a whole house of Legos of different colors. And then of course within those Legos, they have different elements that make each mineral. So it's like a, you know, a trickle down effect. But anyway, so minerals, definitely a tough class. It was really fun. That teacher was also amazing. I can't even complain about like any of my teachers there. Like, you're amazing. If you're watching this, you know who you are. Loved her class. She made us flan once. Like, that's how cool we are in geology. And then you take other classes. So you took a class called petrology, where you kind of look at the makeup of rocks and their different states. You really learned like the nitty gritty of like the tiny pieces and the origins and like what melting points things were. You looked at a lot of things under the microscope, so you used your mineralogy knowledge. You took a sedimentology class, how rivers carried rock to make sediments. I mean, not just rivers, but air, the transport of rocks from one origin to another location, how that changed the environment and how it looked. With that, you learned like different structures, like wave structures, how wind or water created them, footprints and raindrops and mud cracks, stuff like that. And you just kind of learn about the environment from sedimentology. It might have pieces of plants and pollen and all that stuff. And you could tell a lot by sedimentary rock. Of course, you took classes with igneous rocks and metamorphic rocks, so things that developed in the earth or were changed after the fact. You took structural geology, which was definitely a really tough course. How plates subduct under each other, looking at different diagrams to look at earthquakes and stuff like that, and how different features are created. Of course, I took invertebrate paleontology, where you learn all about invertebrates, so things that have essentially their skeleton on the outside of their bodies. That tends to fossilize very readily, so things with shells, exoskeletons, things without a backbone, invertebrate paleontologies. Learned to identify fossils. I personally took a coal geology class because I worked in a coal lab, so I learned all about that. I paired it with my museum studies minor, so I did some rock stuff at the museum that was on campus. And then at the end of it all, you take a field camp, which that's a whole other video in itself. I'll do a whole field camp video, but it's the most grueling and wonderful 6 weeks of your life. You definitely hate it while you're there. And then after the fact, you just want to gush about how much you loved it. It's really hard. Like, I think I cried and had asthma attacks like the first few days. And at the end of those 6 weeks, man, I was climbing mountains. My asthma was like pretty much gone. I don't think I've ever been so fit in my entire life as I did at the end of that. And what those entail is you're basically mapping. Go out west and you map a bunch of different areas. They also take you on different like scenic field trips, learn about like Yellowstone, and it's just culminated in this huge practicum. Instead of just me talking this whole time, I grabbed a few examples of rocks and minerals. I think I'll probably do a Meet My Rocks video, or since I do a Meet My Pets video. I have a huge rock collection. Geologists are weird and we'll just put stuff in our backpacks. I literally walked around with a huge piece of coprolite in my backpack for about 2 weeks and didn't understand why my backpack was so heavy until I realized I had fossil poop. in there for 2 weeks straight. Here's a few things. It's just gonna be show and tell. So this is rhodonite and rhodochrosite. It was formed in hydrothermal vents. This is a pink variety of muscovite. Muscovite's like the flakiest mineral you'll ever find. It's really fun to break apart. It's used in glitter a lot. Malachite, say that's botryoidal structures, so it makes it like these little bubbles. This is uranium glass, so there's trace amounts of uranium in this, so it might be a little radioactive, and then I'm touching it. You know, I'm just a geologist. Here's your scary thing for the video. So this beautiful mineral right here is halite. Halite is just salt. So if I lick it, it's gonna be really salty. I don't want to add any moisture. Both of these are pyrite or fool's gold. Here's kind of one that you see commonly, is just a chunk of it. This is called a pyrite sun. It's found at the top of mine shafts. This is a hunk of meteorite that my husband bought for me at a rock shop. So I can do a whole video on meteorites. There's lots of different ways you can tell if it's a meteorite versus meteor wrong, and it's based on how heavy it is and then the different structures on it. This is selenite, another mineral. They make a lot of lamps out of these too. This pink stuff is tourmaline. I had a lot of people whose favorite mineral was tourmaline. This is iron from a banded iron formation. You learn about BIFs early on in your career. This is my husband's favorite mineral. It's stibnite, and this rock is garnet schist. I collected this myself on a field trip. If you can see all those tiny little garnets in there. So this is called silicon carbide or carborundum. This one's actually man-made. Its natural occurring form is super rare. They've mass-produced this mineral, so you can actually create minerals in a lab or factory setting. They use this a lot for abrasives. Geologists, of course, have the best puns. It's not my fault. There's a rock called schist, so you hear a lot of people yelling schist out in the field. My best advice that I was given in college was get high and look for joints. That was at field camp. You basically go to a really tall level and look for, you know, different structures while you're out in the field. Take nothing for granted. Don't lose your appetite. We're nice, tough, and a little wacky. So nice, tough, and wacky are different rocks. And then of course, geology rocks. If you want to hear about my other degrees or a Meet My Rocks video, please like and subscribe for more videos. See you then. I'm gonna thank all my professors because I love them so much. My professors out there, you guys did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for everything. You guys are amazing. I love you so much. Made my career at SIU wonderful. Special shout out to obviously Dr. Anderson, who got me, you know, fully into the major, and then also Dr. Ishman, who wound up being my pseudo advisor. So thank you guys. You guys are amazing. Go to SIU Carbondale if you want to be a geologist. Minerals are actually made through organisms. To be honest, I kind of dumped most of that. I remember looking at these crazy diagrams and knowing how to understand them, but honestly at this point I don't know how to understand them. If it's a metamorphic rock, it was either changed from an igneous rock to a metamorphic rock, or a sedimentary rock into a metamorphic rock, or another metamorphic rock. Basically anything that's changed can turn to a metamorphic rock. How plates subduct under each other. Excuse me. I don't really want to say the school because then you can creep on me, but screw it.